Hello, in this short film I'm going to discuss the role that an inquiry-based approach to learning might play as a key component in our design and delivery of a challenging and rigorous academic curriculum. One of the key architects behind the new focus on the curriculum that is driving Ofsted these days has been Dr. Christine Council, formerly of Cambridge University, now Director of Education for the Inspiration Trust. And in June 2020, she took to Twitter to discuss a series of guidance documents. Now, these were intended to be part of conversations between teachers and senior leadership teams around the idea of the curriculum and how we improve and constantly seek to refine our curriculum. And while she stressed that it wasn't an audit, she was talking a lot about something which I know is close to her heart as it is to mine, and that is the idea of big questions. So one of the questions that she posed was, how well do teachers keep pupils focused on a big idea, a central question, or a disciplinary problem across a particular sequence of lessons? And what this little film is going to aim to do is suggest a possible way forward and a possible answer that we might have to that particular question. What we are looking to do here is consider the role of inquiry and how we might embed inquiry-based approaches to learning into our curriculum. I'd like to stress that inquiry is not what it has been seen to be in the past, which is letting students go off and do research on their own. That is not inquiry. That is not what we are talking about here. We are going to talk about an approach to planning parts of our curriculum, an approach to some of the components of our curriculum that is sequential, that is well thought through, that is logical, and that leads students to being able to answer a big question with their newfound knowledge. 25 years ago, when I started teaching in Hampshire, I was lucky enough to be mentored by a gentleman called Neil Thompson. Neil Thompson was the county inspector at the time. He was a formidable intellect and, quite honestly, somebody who terrified the living daylights out of me. However, he taught me an approach to structuring lessons and learning that has been at the very heart of my practice ever since. It starts with a hook, an initial stimulus, based upon the idea that if we want students to retrieve information, embed it into their long-term memory, the starting point has to be that they care about it. So the idea here is that we find some way to hook student interest, to create some intrigue, perhaps to create a sense of mystery, or just to provide them with something that makes them think from the very start. From there, we define our big question, and that is us as the expert defining the big question. We know what the big questions, the big topics of our subject are. This is not some sort of loose idea where students go off and research and come back with an idea that they want to play with. This is us using our subject expertise to say, right, this is the question we are going to answer. Students will, of course, need to be taught, gather some new information, and we can talk in another video about different methods that we might use to gather this new information. But all of the time, that new information is linked back to the big question, to answering the big question, to giving students the skills that they require to address that big question. They will have to formulate some new understanding. They will have to find their own way of making sense of the material, and we will need to guide them through that process and give them activities that force them to construct their own schema in their minds and begin to assimilate all of this information in a meaningful way. Ultimately, we will want them to present their understanding. And when they present their understanding, this is the point at which they will return to what they started with, the initial stimulus. It will now hopefully make more sense, but more importantly, they will return to the big question and feel now empowered with the skills and knowledge to provide a justifiable and well-reasoned answer to that big question. I'm always very mindful that there are people out there who are far more intelligent than I am, and they are able to articulate the importance of an inquiry-focused curriculum much more clearly than I am. And these are two people who have been inspirational to me, Dr. Michael Riley and Ian Dawson. A focused curriculum, an inquiry-focused curriculum with a metacognition strand, is building independence into students. Ian Dawson, it is essential to do inquiry-based learning because it is creating transferable problem-solving skills. It is allowing students to move from tentative judgments to much firmer conclusions. Another question Christine Council asks is, how will students look at the world differently after they have experienced the learning we provide for them? And inquiry, I believe, is a way forward to make that happen. So some final points about why inquiry might be something we want to consider in our subject. We do need to think and spend time getting the key question right. Christine Council talks about sweating over the key question. We need to be clear about our end goal. We need to think about the key concepts and processes within our subject that are going to form the drive behind the inquiry, and we need to aim for a range of activities, again, to maintain student engagement throughout.